If you go into most any store that sells tile, you are bound to come across ready-made mosaics applied to mesh. In this series, I'm going to show you the process I used to build this simple design for my vanity top. For both the top and the backsplash, I needed to cut about 1,800 tessera, or mosaic pieces. When using a mesh transfer media, it is important that your tessera are all the same thickness in order to produce a smooth surface. I used a lot of scraps I had left over from building 2 marble floors, plus some new full tiles. Each of these tessera were chamfered to give me a smooth to the touch feel across the vanity. I'm going to take and cover my workpiece with, this is actually banner paper. I bought it at Staples. We're going to cover the top of my workpiece with the banner paper, and then we're going to lay out the design. On top of that design, I'll put a sheet of clear plastic. Then on top of the sheet of clear plastic, we'll put the mesh. You can buy this mesh at almost any store that sells mosaic supplies. To lay out my mosaic, I needed to find the exact location of each piece of tessera. Using strips of marble cut to width and 1/8-inch tile spacers, I laid out each vertical part of the grid exactly to the right-hand edge of the workpiece. Then it became a simple matter of marking the center of each grout line. To mark the position of the horizontal lines, I simply rotated the pieces as a whole. I clamped some front edge pieces into position and slid the group against them, separated by an 1/8-inch spacer. Then it was a simple matter to mark the horizontal grid lines. And now I'll apply a layer of plastic over my grid layout. Again, this is to keep the mesh from sticking to my paper. Using a printout of my design and a marker, I drew my design on top of the plastic. Note that I squiggled, for lack of a better word, the lines to broaden them within my grid lines. Next came my mesh layer. You need to make sure you pull it taut and that the grid of the mesh is straight. So it's time to start gluing. I use plain white Elmer's glue. However, I have seen on eBay some folks were selling a special glue along with their mesh. I'll tell you what, Elmer's glue works just fine. You may want to dilute it with a bit of water. I apply it using an acid brush. I apply glue 4 to 5 inches at a time. The tessera are applied dead center on each grid space. I did not get them all cut perfectly to size. Imagine that. Once you get started, it goes pretty fast. By the way, they do make a machine for chopping tessera. However, they are very expensive. I found that I was making a few mistakes, so I laid a line of tiles down alongside my next line. This kept me from grabbing the wrong color. A nice tool to have on hand is a dental pick. It can help slide the pieces into position. I'll run some of this fast motion so you can get the idea without me taking up a lot of your time. Even though this has been drying for about 15 hours, if I lift the mesh up from the plastic, it's still not quite dry underneath there. So I want to start building my right-hand side mosaic. So what I'm going to do is just simply take this and slide plastic and all off on top of a piece of plywood, which allows me to now start building my next mosaic on here. And I'll just set this aside to continue drying until I'm happy that I can remove the mesh from the plastic. I'm going to make my mosaic more manageable by cutting it into sections. Actually, I'm going to quarter it. I'm going to mark each one of them just so that when I lay this down, I don't make a mistake. Now let's see if we're dry on the back. If I'm not, I'll just lay this upside down to let that thoroughly dry. But there's my mosaic.
Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to my channel.